Fatma, you cannot. So better wait for a while. Maybe it will be uploading. Can you see it now?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, Abgini is unable to join.
Uh, she cannot join with ID and password also, bete?
Yes, ma'am.
Fatma, can you see the screen now?
No, ma'am.
Mhm. So let me try one more time. Maybe you will be able to see. But I have shared the screen
Yes, ma'am.
again. I hope
Now
you
it's
can see.
visible.
All right. All right. This is the worksheet we will be doing together. So later on, I will share this worksheet in the class group also. So you can see the first question is find any four rational numbers between 2 by 5 and 1 by 2. So this kind of question can come in the paper as well. So that you need to write down any rational number between these two fractions. So can anyone tell me how many rational numbers are in between these two fractions? Can anyone answer? So we need to write down four rational numbers. But can you tell me what do you think? How many are there?
Ma'am, infinite.
Infinite. So that's right. There are so many rational numbers. You remember that you have researched about it also, that both rational and irrational numbers are infinite numbers. So let's convert this into basically decimals so that I can easily write down the numbers between them. Like 0.5 is basically 1 by 2 is basically 0.5, and 2 by 5. Can anyone tell me what is the decimal form of 2 by 5? Can anyone tell me? 2 by 5,
0.5,
0.5,
0.4.
0.4. So how do I know? Because 2 by 5, I can make the decimal, I can make the denominator 10 by multiplying it with 2. So basically it is 4 by 10, the equivalent form. And I know 4 by 10 means 0.4. So 0.4 and 0.5. So between 0.4 and 0.5, can anyone tell me any one rational number? Between 0.4 and 0.5.
0.3.
0.3 is not between them. 0.3 is before 0.4, na? So like if I draw
0.4,
Ma'am,
GG
ma'am,
Kashaf,
0.42.
42, very good.
0.47 count.
0.47. So if this is 0.4 and this is 0.5, so apparently it looks like these two numbers are basically like only 0.1 apart from each other. But if we go into the smaller decimal value, so there are infinite numbers between them. So we can write down 0.42 as Meyer suggested, or as Kashaf said, 0.47. So instead of taking one decimal place, we have taken two decimal places. Or we can take three decimal places also. For example, I can write down 0.401. This is also a decimal number between these two. So can anyone tell me one more decimal which is in between these two?
425.
0.425. Very good. So this kind of question can come in the paper. So the best way to answer this question is that convert the fractions into decimals. Why? Because it is easy to comprehend. When we are talking about decimal numbers, we can easily comprehend that what can be smaller than this value. But in the fraction form, so this is more difficult. So now if you see, I can change it into a fraction also, 42 by 100. And I can simplify it also to get a fraction value. So, but this is also fine. There is no harm in this. So this is a better way of writing. So next question is circle the rational numbers. So before solving this question, who can tell me that what are rational numbers? What are rational numbers and what are not rational numbers? So that we can solve it quickly. What kind of numbers are rational and what kind of numbers are not rational? So if we talk about um, decimals, what kind of decimals are irrational? Anyone?
Terminating and non-terminating.
Very right.
And non-terminating and non-recurring.
So irrational numbers are basically non-terminating,
Non-term.
non-recurring. So out of the three decimals we have discussed, non-terminating, non-recurring are basically irrational numbers, where the division is not ending and there is no pattern also. So those are irrational numbers. So then what else is irrational? All the roots which are non-solvable. So what kind of roots are rational? Which are not solvable or which are not having a perfect square or cube number. So we will discuss that also. So the roots which are not solvable or which are not solvable, by not solvable I mean which are giving you a decimal answer. So those are also irrational, and non-terminating, non-recurring are also irrational. And there is a third thing which is pi. Pi is basically non-terminating, non-recurring, but we need to remember that pi is not a rational number. Keeping these three categories in mind, now let's solve. So 3 by 4, what do you think? What is the decimal value of 3 by 4?
0.75.
That's right, it is 0.75. This is 0.75. So it means it's a terminating decimal. So terminating decimals are rational, so I will circle it. I hope you are getting the point also. Answers are important, but the reason is also very important. Why 3 by 4 is rational? Because it's a terminating decimal. We know that the answer is 0.75. So when you will solve this question on the notebook, I want you to write down the reason also. Right? So I want you to write down the reason along with identification. Why this is rational, why this is not rational.
Excuse me, ma'am.
जी जी बेटे.
Ma'am, Abgini has requested you to join the class. Can you accept it?
Oh, जी बेटे sure.
Ma'am, we will complete this worksheet right now in the notebook or later on.
बेटे you can do it later on. I will share this um, worksheet in the class group. So you can do it later on because right now the time is very short. So
Okay, ma'am.
I will share this solved worksheet also so that you can remember what we have discussed in the class. All right. So next is 2.72 with a bar. Can you remember what does this bar means?
Ma'am, that the
Ma'am,
sequence is
it means
repeating.
that it is constant. It is infinite and going on.
Yes, that means this is a repeating pattern. So basically it is 2.7272 and so on, three dots. So to remove that, they have written it in this form. So what kind of decimal is this? Recurring or
I'm
non?
rational,
This is
recurring.
that's right. So this
Recurring.
is rational number. Reason is because this is a recurring number. So next is 14 by 4. 14 by 4. So 14 by 4 is basically 7 by 2. Or you can write down what is half of 7? 3.5. So what kind of decimal is this?
Terminating.
Terminate.
Terminating decimal. So that's why it is also rational because we have discussed in the start कि non-terminating, non-recurring are irrational and the non-solvable roots are also irrational. So now comes a root. You can see square root of 90. So is it a square number 90? Is it a square number? What are the square numbers basically in the first 100 numbers? So only these numbers are square numbers. I'm writing on the top. 1 is a square number. 1 is a square number. Then 4 is a square number. Then 3 square is 9. Then 20. Then 16. Then 25. Then 36. Then 49. Then 64. Then 9 square is 81. And then 10 square is 100. So these are the 10 numbers which are solvable in the square root. So, but square root of 90 is not solvable. So it means this is irrational number. So what is the reason that this is irrational? Because it is a non-solvable root or it's a root where the decimal will come. So I will not circle square root of 90. I hope the reason is clear because square root of 90 is not solvable. All right. So out of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
first 100 numbers, only these 10 are solvable. So next is 3.6 with a bar. So what kind of decimal is this?
Recurring.
It's a recurring decimal. It means it's a rational number. Next is square root of 2. So these, we already know that these are the 10 numbers which are solvable. So square root of 2 or 2 is not in them. So it means this is irrational. And if you
Irrational.
can, that's right. And if you can recall when you researched about irrational numbers, so many of you have write down on that paper that square root of 2 was the first irrational number that was discovered by mathematicians. Can you recall that? So many of you have written it that square root of 2 was discovered by which mathematician? All right. I also don't recall the name of the mathematician, but it was like the students of that mathematician basically um, invented this. Pythagorean, I think so. Pythagoreans were the one who discovered this first irrational number.
Pythagoras.
जी बेटे
Pythagoras.
जी Pythagoras told invented that there are irrational numbers also in the mathematics, but his students probably worked on this and they figured out square root of 2 was the first irrational number. So next is square root of 13. So if you see in these numbers, the 10 numbers I have written on the screen, 13 is also not there. So it means square root of 13 is also irrational.
Irrational.
Next is 4.6. What kind of decimal is this?
Terminating.
It's a terminating decimal, so it will be a rational number. So next is square root of 25.
Rational.
Rational.
It's a rational number. Why? Because it is solvable. Next is 3 by 11. 3 by 11. So you need to divide and see. You will put 3 inside and you will divide it with 11. So it will be 30. 11 twos are 22. So 0.22. 8 will come. So at least I told you divide up to 5 decimal places to confirm that what kind of number is this. So it will be 80. So
It
then
is infinite.
they like
Rational number because it's repeat.
Ma'am, it is repeating two
right,
seven two seven two seven.
7 is repeating. So
Ma'am, it is recurring.
it's a recurring number.
Recurring number.
That's right. And the answer is 0.27 with a bar. All right. So who can tell me about next number? Minus 21.2.
Terminating.
It's a terminating decimal. Sign does not matter. So don't get confused. There is a negative sign, so it will happen. So it's a terminating decimal. Next is 0.17 with a bar.
Recurring.
It's a rec-
Recurring.
that
Rational.
it's a rational number because it is recurring. Next is minus 9.5.
Terminating.
So it's a terminating decimal. We will circle it. Next is square root of 61.
Irrational.
Irrational.
Irrational. Ma'am.
Irrational.
That's right. That's right. Next is 1 by 50.
Rational.
It's a rational number because you can convert it into, you can multiply it with 2. So it will be 2 by 1000. So basically the value is 0.002. So that's a terminating decimal and a rational number. So next is square root of 5.
Irrational.
Irrational.
Irrational. 3 pi.
Irrational.
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 Pi I have written explicitly so that you can remember it. Wherever the pi comes, it is irrational. Very right. Next is 2 by 36.
Uh,
2 by 36. So can anyone check with the calculator? Maybe it's 1 2 by 36. What is the value?
Rational.
It's rational. What is the value, beta?
0.055555.
Oh, so it's like 0.05 and there is a bar on the 5. All right. Next
Yes,
is minus pi. Pi is also
Irrational.
irrational. 2 by 5. 2 by 5 we have just find out. 2 by 5 is point 4. It's a rational number. Pi plus 5. So I told you wherever pi is, that is irrational number.
Irrational.
Next is 0. So what do you think 0 is?
rational.
Rational, because 0 is a
Rational.
whole number. Remember that? 0 is a whole number. Next is square root of 4 plus square root of 5. So just look at this. Square root of 4 is basically 2. It's a rational number. But when it is added to an irrational number, so the answer becomes irrational. Just like pi is irrational, but 5 is rational. But when they are added together, the answer is irrational. So that is also a rational number because of square root of 5. So next is 8.3 with the bar. It's a
Rational.
Ra-
Eliminate.
uh,
rational. Rational.
practice decimal. What is square root of 36?
6.
6. So it's a
Rational.
rational number. So can you solve the rest of these on your own?
Yes, ma'am.
So please
Yes, ma'am.
complete the rest of the numbers on your notebook. And let's quickly discuss the last question, which is not irrational. So what do you think? Question number 3. Which is not irrational?
5 and 16.
5 is
No, ma'am.
not
Yeah, 5. Only
only
16. 16.
only
16.
square root of 16, because that is equal to
4.
4.
4. So this is the only root which is giving me a whole number in the answer. Rest of the 3 roots are basically irrational. So which is not irrational, that is only square root of 16. So I will share this screen, or I will share this worksheet in the class group also, so that you can, complete the classwork. So I have taken extra 10 minutes because we have joined the class late. So that's all, everyone. Please join the next class. I have taken your 10 minutes break also. Sorry for that. So you can join the
Ma'am,
next class. So,
who will take a computer class?
but I have asked Ma'am Saira, there will not be any computer class. So you will be free in those two.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
which is the next class?
History.
History. All right. Ma'am Naseem have already created. So I hope you can see the channels. So join the class from there, bete. Thank you for joining. Take care.
Bye.
Allah
Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.
Bye, ma'am.
Allah Hafiz,
Allah
ma'am.
Hafiz.